And we're back. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office, North Georgia's only live online morning show. Folks, we had an interesting Sunday show circuit there, the panel. What they do on Face the Nation, Chuck Todd, MSNBC, or whatever, Chris Wallace, ABC, George Stephanopoulos, what they do is they try to put one. They try to mask one conservative. They try to mask one person that is a Republican. It's just like, you know, you'll see on MSNBC in the morning, they will have Morning Joe, and Minka will have Michael Steele, former chairman of the Republican Party, and he kind of covers it all. He happens to be African American, aka black, but Michael Steele happens to be African American, so he covers that side of it for him. I mean, they're so racist. Those people are so racist. Don't even think for 1 minute. I mean, they know when. Let me tell you, don't get offended by me, okay? I promise. They know when to bring in the Italian. They know when to bring in the African American. They know when to bring in the Asian. They know when to bring in the Hispanic, Latino. They know when to bring in the liberal female activist. They know when to bring. They are the most racist people, period. The left is as racist. The media is racist by separating people. They love to separate people. It keeps the ratings up, and it actually gives them a reason to gas up the satellite trucks. They are, I'm not going to get off on it, but they are majorly hurting on a reason to gas up satellite trucks. Because what can happen now is I can take this, Amanda could take this, you could take this, we could do a quick on the street, you know, video. We could send it into a major news network. You could send it into FetcherNews.com. And we can report it for you immediately just like that and just keep blowing it up. But, you know, the satellite trucks that's got, you know, that are worth, you know, $150,000, $200,000, they got to find a reason to gas those up. So they are the most racially dividing people, the media. Okay, so they try to find one conservative that they try to mask as a conservative or a Republican. And this week, it kind of blew up on them. Because it's almost like some of the conservatives and even moderates and even people that had to deal with the truth. See, here's what Morning Joe does. Joe and Minka, they say, you know, the sad thing about the administration and the people that work for this president of the United States is they will go out there one day and they will have to deal with the truth. They will have to answer for all these lies. They are putting their career, how many times have you heard them say, they are putting their career on the line and ruining their career for Donald Trump. So many of this past Sunday's show panel had to come out and balance ruining their career and not telling the truth because America, they know America knows the truth, are continuing with the narrative that there's something here somewhere when they know better. And many of them didn't. And the moderators of the show or the host of the show like Stephanopoulos and these guys and Chuck Todd, they didn't know what to do because they were like cringing. When Susan Collins that comes out and that'll vote for anything that looks Democrat that, you know, reeks of conservative politics says, you know, cashing in on a book at a time there's an open investigation. Now, let me just say a couple things here because I want to get to the point. The media never really, some do, but the mainstream media, as you can call it, lamestream and whoever they are, they never go into this. First of all FBI agents, all FBI top head in the upper level, okay, and all FBI, they sign an enormous amount of documents. Your life no longer belongs to you, period. Even when you leave, your life belongs to us. CIA, FBI, okay? Now, if you want to leave the FBI because you walk in, all right, and you want to talk about Cosa Nostra, You want to talk about being a made man, all right? They want to talk about mafioso. You want to talk about mob-style stuff. When you walk into the FBI, okay? I mean, it's really like a joke like that Men in Black stuff, but you walk through an area and you sign so many documents and you get some bright lights, I'm just saying put on you, I'm just saying maybe it's not 100%, but something like this, and you will never talk. You never talk. You're in there. You never talk. You never say anything. The FBI, I have tried on multiple occasions to get press releases from the FBI. They don't release them. I had a case down here in Pickens County that it was all over and confirmed that the FBI was investigating an individual in Pickens County. They don't, it ended, but they don't put out a notice the investigation was over. I called for a press release. Hey, can I get a statement on the investigation being over? No. You don't talk. Never. Then you sign paperwork if you're FBI and you say, when and if I leave here alive and I decide to talk, or I decide to write my memoirs, or I decide to write a book, I don't care what it is. The summer I picked up seashells on the seashore, on the sand, off Jersey Beach while being an FBI agent. You'll have to send that in. The FBI has a department to vet that. You have to send that transcript in. You have to send the copy of your book in for them to review. There's a department. And it has to be cleared that you don't accidentally say anything confidential or classified. Did Comey send his transcript through the FBI? If so, did they get the green light on something from the FBI? Wouldn't your FBI say to James Comey, look, we can't green light this right now. There's an open investigation. Folks, you cannot get information on an open investigation. They'll stop you immediately. But Comey gets through those channels and cashes in. And he doesn't write a factual book. He writes a novel based on his feelings. All right? Then we have the President of the United States, and they're trying to sell us that he did not leak classified information. My God, from Hillary to everybody, classified information leaks. But he took memos. Folks, when the FBI director, sworn by oath, listen to this, goes into a U.S. government building, whether it be the White House in the United States, the Oval Office, the dining room of the White House, he is in your house. So when he goes into a government building and he is the sworn director of the FBI, and this guy is the sworn president of the United States of America, and they sit down, it belongs to you. It belongs to the government, that conversation does. By no means is it personal. Hell no, it's not. It cannot be. It's not there. It's not possible. So you run out and you take a memo of the information that you just talked to the President of the United States. Now you have your confidential and you have your classified. And you run and you do memos. And then you send these memos up to your friend at Columbia University, a professor, which gets them to the media. And then you explain to Congress why you did it. Under oath, you acknowledge that you leaked these memos. The entire Russia investigation into collusion and possible obstruction is based on nothing. A phony dossier, a FISA warrant, memos that do not in any way, it's based on nothing, no fact whatsoever. But then when the American people get these memos, they're redacted. I'm just saying, folks, how does this continue? Now, I'm hoping by all means that McCabe, I'm hoping McCabe, Comey, Mueller. I hope this thing's wrapping up. Now, Dershowitz. What another thing they're going to try to sell you, okay? They're going to try to sell you that, all right? They're going to try to sell you that they're going to try to sell you that wait a minute, I lost my train of thought. They're going to try to sell you that the Southern District, that what's going on with Michael Cohen is the Southern District, the U.S. Attorney Southern District of New York, and not Robert Mueller, the special counsel. He found some stuff and referred to them. But Alan Dershowitz, and that's when they raided Michael Cohen, but Alan Dershowitz straightens them out. Let's play a little of this interview before we get to our 9 o'clock hour with Alan Dershowitz on, and he set straight George Stephanopoulos and the two other guests.
Dig into it with our panel of legal experts. Alan Dershowitz, professor emeritus at Harvard Law School, author of Trumped Up, How Criminalization of Political Differences Endangers Democracy. Our chief legal analyst, Dan Abrams. And Mimi Rokoff, former federal prosecutor in the Southern District of New York, now criminal justice fellow at Pace Law School. Welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
Professor Dershowitz, let me begin with you. The president clearly agitated by all this pressure on Michael Cohen. He also called the raid on Cohen an attack on our country. After those raids, how serious is the threat to Cohen and Trump?
Oh, it's a very serious threat. This is an epic battle for the soul and the cooperation of Michael Cohen. And prosecutors have enormous weapons at their disposal. They can threaten him essentially with life imprisonment. They can threaten his parents. They can threaten his spouse. They have these enormous abilities to really put pressure and coerce a witness. On the other hand, the president has a unique weapon that no other criminal defendant or suspect ever has. He has the pardon power. And go back to Christmas 1992, when President Bush exercised that pardon power and pardoned Caspar Weinberger, precluding him from pointing the finger at him.
Put a lot on the table right there. We'll get to each of it in turn. I mean, I got to go to you first because I saw you sort of squinting as Professor Dershowitz was talking about all those threats the prosecutors can make.
Yeah, I have a response to that. You know, look, that's not what prosecutors do in my experience, having been one for 16 and a half years and having, worked with many of them across different districts, including New York. They do not threaten people's parents and children. I mean, I don't know what, it sounds good, but I don't know where that accusation is coming from.
You want some examples?
But if I could, what they do with cooperators is, especially a cooperator like Michael Cohen, they don't trust him to begin with. They don't just take what he says and write it down. They listen to what he says. They're skeptical. They test it against other evidence. They try to corroborate it. They don't just take at face value.
So
what
you don't get a deal
says.
until you're certain, or as certain as you can be, that the potential cooperator is telling the truth.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Let's be clear, though, about this issue of cooperating, right? He can't cooperate on attorney-client matters, right? The president could invoke the privilege and say he's not allowed to talk about private conversations that we had as attorney-client.
Separate from business matters.
Correct. But my point is, everyone's sort of presuming that Michael Cohen could just flip on everything. He could just turn the president in if he decided to do that. If he decides to cooperate, there are going to be a lot of questions as to what he's actually allowed to disclose. When was he the attorney? When was he not the attorney, et cetera? And I still think it's unlikely that he's going to flip on him.
Why?
I think one of the things that struck me, and this is kind of a media thing, is immediately after the raid, Michael Cohen made phone calls to various mainstream media people. And it struck me that, gosh, for a team that shows such disdain for the mainstream media, why call these sort of big figures in the mainstream media if that's the position?
Well, Michael Cohen has always had deep ties to the
yes,
media.
he has.
There's no question about that.
None of this stuff matters, and it doesn't matter whether he likes the president or doesn't like the president. What matters is the sword of Damocles hanging over his head. Michael Milken, they told him they were going to indict his brother unless he pleaded guilty. Jonathan Pollard, they told him they were going to indict his wife. I can go down case after case after case.
But that may be because
prosecutors
they were involved in criminal activity.
Well, of course, that's the point.
But to say that the government threatens people's relatives with no
I didn't
basis
say
about
no
their
basis.
conduct.
I said they threaten relatives and then they create the basis. They wouldn't otherwise go after these people, but they hold these people hostage. That's what prosecutors do. Every defense attorney knows that. And to look in the camera and say that prosecutors don't threaten relatives is to mislead the American public. Sorry.
I disagree, obviously. But the other point is that, you know, cooperators, I just have to keep coming back to this. They're not going to just take what he says at face value. They're going to test it. It's not going to be a case written down what Michael Cohen says.
And they already have some documents.
Correct. They have lots of evidence. We know that because they got a search warrant. And the search warrant, you know, was based on probable cause to believe that
But
Cohen...
against Michael Cohen. I mean, we keep sort of lumping in Cohen and Trump.
That's actually where we should begin right now. The point is that Michael Cohen is now under serious threat. He's had this raid. We've even had the judge in the Stormy Daniels case say that it's very possible, if not likely, he's going to get indicted. We've seen another attorney he worked with flip as well. After a raid like this, the chances of an indictment quite high.
Very high. Very high that he's going to be indicted. But we have to separate out the two. They got a warrant here not because there was information on Donald Trump that they wanted from Michael Cohen. They got the warrant because there was information on Michael Cohen potentially committing a crime.
If you believe that, I have a bridge I can sell you in Brooklyn.
You're actually going to say that a judge signed off on a warrant?
Absolutely.
To get
you can get judges to sign off on warrants like Christmas presents.
Right.
Yes.
To get information on his client. So they signed off on a warrant saying, we want information on his client, not on him.
There's no way in which they would go after Michael Cohen if they weren't interested in his client. They're interested in his client in two different ways.
Because
Number one,
no way he could have committed a crime by himself.
He might have, but
right?
they wouldn't have even looked at what he was doing if he weren't the president's lawyer. They're going after him for two reasons. One, to try to flip him, and two, to try to find information that would show that there's an exception to the lawyer-client privilege under the crime fraud. You know, if you're going to...
Who's the they, by the way?
The prosecutor.
Which prosecutor?
The Southern District of New York.
Oh, okay, so it's not Mueller's team now.
They're working together. If they weren't working together, then Sessions would be back on the case because he only recused himself from the Russia investigation. If these were separate investigations...
So there's no such thing as independent work on the part...
Not in this case.
And in the District of Columbia, when they're investigating McCabe, that too is going to be hand in hand?
Absolutely. Of course, they're all working close together to try to target the president or people close to him.
I wanted to get
That's
to that.
what's
Hold on a second. Yeah. What is the significance of moving into the Southern District? Does that somehow protect the investigation if the president chooses to?
Now, can you do me a favor and hold where that's at? Because about 9:30, I want to get to the last of that. I am sorry, folks. I could stay. That's another like 4 minutes, but let me tell you something, okay? This is what I'm talking about. It messed them up on Sunday. They could not take, okay? Now, Dan Abrams, okay? ABC legal correspondent. This guy's got his law degree, everything, okay? Dan Abrams, all right? He had to admit... All right, Dan Abrams had to admit that he can't cooperate on attorney-client privilege matters. And even Dan Abrams says unlikely he flips. So what I'm saying is, okay, you can cooperate with the special counsel, you can cooperate with the prosecutor, okay? But they're going to go in there and say, this is when he is Donald Trump's attorney. He can't cooperate on that. Okay? Even Dan Abrams, ABC, and this is what messing up George Stephanopoulos thinking. I just had Comey on. I'm this close. I'm the one. I am the guy that they created Spin City after. I am the guy that Michael J. Fox meant. I was the guy that they made Michael J. Fox in Spin City of the political advisor to the mayor of New York City. I am George Stephanopoulos. I was this close to getting with James Comey to making this happen. Why would you come on my show and do this? Even ABC's Abrams says he can't cooperate on attorney-client privilege. He cannot. They're going to. Now, Dershowitz says he's going to. There's two things they're going to do. They're going to try to flip him, Alan Dershowitz said, and they're going to try to find a crack in the attorney-client privilege. That is what they're looking for, all right? Now, what was her name? Mimi? Is her name Mimi? I forget her name. The prosecutor. She's a former prosecutor in the Southern District. Did you see Dershowitz knock her legs right out from under her? She was stuttering. I mean, I'm telling you, she was stuttering. She couldn't take it, all right? Here's the thing. Dershowitz is right. They threaten him, threaten his parents, threaten his spouse, okay? And the prosecutor, Mimi, saying, no, that never happens. That never happens. Oh, really? You want me to give you some examples? You want to talk about Michael Milken? Case after case, create a basis. They hold these people hostage. They destroy their lives. Right now, there's an attempt to destroy Michael Cohen's life. There's an attempt by prosecutors and the higher up, which I'm going to say deep state, to destroy his family. Because if his wife, well, we don't threaten family. If you find out his wife or someone's wife knew something, you could say she corroborated, all right, and she was a witness, whatever. You could come up. If you visited your mom and dad on the holidays and you took a call from somebody in there, they could be questioned. They can be questioned. They can have all kinds of pressure. They can go sit down. Mom and dad, get the tea out and the little cookies and the FBI comes in. Or the prosecutor, ma'am, I understand. But last Christmas, was your son here? Yes. Did he eat dinner with you? Yeah, we got some questions for you. What kind of questions? We opened some presents. I got him a cardigan. Bada bing, bada boom. He bought the kids something. We had some cake. We had some turkey. There you go. Or maybe he's Jewish. Maybe he was here for Hanukkah. I don't know. Don't get on me. It's the point. He's right. They will work to destroy your life. Okay? Listen. Dershowitz said, the judge signs warrants like Christmas presents. Okay? And if you don't think this is about Donald Trump, all right? I got some swamp property to sell you. I don't know what he said. But we're going to watch some more of that when we come back, all right? Do you think they're working together? Dershowitz said, yeah. They're independent. Dershowitz said, not in this case. So I'm going to go with Alan Dershowitz on this. In this case here, okay, the Southern District of New York and what's going on there with Michael Cohen is not independent. Do you think, like Dershowitz said, that they would be going after Michael Cohen if he wasn't the President of the United States Attorney and they don't think there's something in there they could possibly find? Absolutely not. Not in this case. Okay, I'm going to take a brief break here in just a minute. I'm going to take a brief break. And we're going to have switch gears at 9 o'clock. We're going to start into Monday morning here, our candidates. Every day we're trying to interview one or two candidates randomly for different offices. This one happens to be for the Georgia State Insurance Commissioner's Office. We're going to have Tracey Jordan. Now, my words, your host, BKP. I believe Ralph Hudgens has made an absolute mess out of the Insurance Commissioner's Office. I believe it's a disaster. I'm going to talk to Ms. Jordan about her run for office, Ms. Jordan, and see what she thinks. Does it need cleaned up in there? Does it need a turnaround? Does she think it might be a mess? We'll find out. I also want to know, do you think somebody should be able to take campaign finance money from somebody they regulate? See, the Public Service Commissioner cannot. If you're running for Public Service Commissioner in the state of Georgia, you cannot take money from someone you regulate. Wonder if that should be in the Insurance Commissioner's business issue. Okay, so I'm going to take a break. We come back. Don't forget, today at 10 will be our first. Now we're going to get this thing off the ground, and we're going with it. It's Team FYN Sports presents Instant Replay with Dave Garner. We're all excited about that. I know, Amanda, you and Sam are tweeting it and pushing it out and Instagramming it and all the stuff that you do to get everybody ready. That's at 10 o'clock right after this show ends. Let's take a break, and when we come back, Tracey Jordan will be on with us.